Hi guys, Bran and Fonz here today. Hi Fonz. DBD, good old behavior, has given us another curveball and decided to let us know ahead of time what some of the changes they're going to be making to live between the PTB for this big 50 perk mid-chapter, well it's 49 perks, 49 perk chapter change and overhaul that's coming here supposedly next week, supposedly next Tuesday. But they've actually come through and let us know what a lot of the changes they are going to be making once live comes through, as well as changes they plan to make post-live in order to address some of the issues that we've had. And I will say, before we get started with this stuff, oh my gosh, this is the weird world that we live in now, right? My friends, it's a weird world. Behavior actually changes things, actually communicating better. Did they swap out their team or something? What happened? I mean, I'm not complaining. Don't look the gift horse in the mouth, but I am enjoying all of this communication and stuff that they're giving us. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that they're going to be overhauling is the progression system, because apparently we've heard you. You hear that from every company when something goes wrong. It's like, we've heard you. First off, they've increased the blood cap on categories. It used to be 8,000. Now it's going to be 10,000. I don't think that's going to matter too much. That's 2,000 extra blood points per category, and you're not often going to be maxing out every category. So I don't know. I feel like this is, I won't say no, but it doesn't really help do incredibly much. Yeah. You see, he agrees. Yeah. I hope the mic picked that up. In a future update, we'll revisit the rarity of blood web nodes after prestiging. Currently, resetting to level 1 also makes common quality nodes far well common. If your favorite add-ons happen to be rare or very rare, prestiging may have been difficult. So this is the issue that a lot of people were pointing out when it came to the new prestige changes, is they've reset the way blood webs work, and like it reads there, in the new mid-chapter after prestiging, common add-ons will be way more common, meaning that if you like infantry belt, if you like bloody coil on trapper, if like even like green add-ons are going to be kind of hard to get, just because of the way the new rarity works. And that was kind of, in a sense, why people were like, hey, is the blood point grind is actually going to get worse specifically for add-ons, even though they're supposed to be cutting the blood point grind. So they're acknowledging that they're going to work, focus on trying to get that done soon TM, not by live, but soon TM, they will resolve that issue. Currently, all they're doing in terms of the prestiging is lowering the cost to prestige, because prestiging used to be free, now it costs 50k blood points. They're lowering that to 20,000 blood points. I think that's unnecessary. I think there is no reason to make people pay their blood points to prestige. I think that's silly, and I think there's no reason for that, so they should just remove it entirely. Another weird thing is that they're raising the blood point cap from 1 million to 2 million. Once again, this doesn't really like necessarily help with the issues that the current prestige system or new prestige system will have. It'll make it nicer because you can store more blood points and like plow through some prestige like relatively quickly, I guess. But like, I don't know, like the main problem is the rarity situation with the blood point web. So if that gets addressed, then basically nothing else matters. Get out of my Mountain Dew. Don't drink my Mountain Dew. It's mine. Do not get out of my Mountain Dew. Get out. You're already hyper enough. You don't need caffeine. Get off the desk. Also, they're going to be adding a increased reward. So if you've already prestige characters, instead of being a prestige 9, you'll be a prestige 11, and so on and so forth. Essentially be boosted by 2 for this catch-up mechanic that they've implemented. That's just a nice little change to kind of like you know, reward people who may not have been being super efficient about getting their characters done or worked on before the mid-chapter release. So that's just nice. We'll take those. Here comes the gameplay changes. Endurance, like I said, like I told you guys last week, endurance stacking was not intended. That was not a thing. So that will be being removed when it come live. This one says you cannot gain the status effect of endurance while you have deep wounds. So for those of you who are worrying about the Metal of Man situation, Metal of Man is not a deep wound related thing, so you know that'll function as normal. But I think this is interesting. I want to point this out. I was reading this initially, and I wanted to point this out because I feel like this is like weirdly deceptive wording. It's either deceptive wording or behavior just like isn't on the same page. I want to point this out. So in the first sentence of this, or the first sentence of the second paragraph, it says, while this is technically working as designed, referring to endurance stacking. Whereas Peanuts, the community manager on the forums, which is where we first got this information, said that that is a bug and it needs to be reported if people are doing that in the PTB. So he literally came out and said, yo, this is an exploit, report people for it. But in the official update, the developer update, it's saying it's working as designed. Maybe I'm just reading wrong here, I hope. But like, doesn't that sound like these can't coexist, these two statements? It was it by design or wasn't it? Because Peanut says that it's a bug and you need to report people who do that in the PTB. And then it says it's working as designed. So which one's the truth here? Yeah, TLDR endurance, no stacky no more. So now we're getting to the perks. Spine Chill, they've essentially kind of re-clarified what they're doing to the perk. However, they have said in the future, we plan to revisit this to implement a more permanent solution that does not require a perk. And then the Terrace indicator will go once they do that. Here we go. We made that video last week talking about that. We were like, hey, if you are deaf or hard of hearing, it kind of sucks that you have to just use a singular perk slot up all the time instead of you having 4 slots available to you just because it's something you can't help. It's kind of annoying. They're doing it. Once again, behavior. What? Who are you? Who went in and replaced your people with listeners? Who did it? Is this the game I've been playing? Is this the company that I've been following for years? What is going on here? But yeah, they're soon TM. You won't even have to do that anymore, which is that's just wild. That's just great. Good stuff. Now here comes the doozy, because I know this is where what people are going to fight over in the comments. Okay, so this is going to be a weird take. I'm not going whatever way you think I am with this. So they are reducing Dead Hard's duration from 1 second to 0.5 seconds. So not only have they removed the dash, so they removed the distance on Dead Hard. Now it's only going to be functioning for half a second instead of a full second. I'm going to go on a limb here. You guys know that my preferred role is killer. You know that I've made tons and 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 tons of videos about how much I hate Dead Hard. I think that the mid-chapter version of Dead Hard in the PTB currently is okay. I thought it was fine. I think they actually kind of struck a fine medium, because by removing the distance and only making it essentially an endurance perk and an extra health state only, what you're doing is, if you're the killer has to bait out Dead Hard. They just have to bait out Dead Hard. But if they do bait out Dead Hard successfully, they just get the hit anyways and everything's fine. There's no yeeting to a pallet, no yeeting to a window, and it's great. But if a survivor can successfully trick a killer, like, actually, use some skill and trick the killer into thinking they're going to Dead Hard, and they actually, bait it correctly, and then they Dead Hard and they get hit, they get an endurance health state, and they get that speed burst from getting hit. So then they can chain tiles that they previously wouldn't have even been able to, even with old Dead Hard. So it was kind of like, hey, it's not for free anymore, but it still has a really, really nice effect if you pull it off, which I thought was a good medium. I don't know why it needed the nerf. Were people really out here still complaining that Dead Hard was just like really annoying and impressive in the PTB? Because I played it on both sides. I played it against it, I played with it. I thought it was so nice. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good change. I didn't think this needed adjusted like at all. Are people really out here still worried about Dead Hard? That's just wild to me, dude. Okay, so Off the Record is kind of largely staying the same, which I know disappoints a lot of the killer main community, because they were kind of afraid that the Off the Record would be the kind of the big boogeyman coming through. So Off the Record is mostly being fixed by the fact that the endurance will no longer stack, which is what the second paragraph is about here. But the first effect that's being added is that Off the Record will now deactivate when exit gates are powered. So there's no more like, hey, if you can just come off hook, take an endurance hit, and then get out for free. That's no longer going to be a thing. That's a nice change. We'll take that change. Honestly, there's going to be situations where survivors will use this and abuse this to like essentially just waste your time. Do I think at all it's going to be as bad as like it was in the PTB? No. So I guess this is a thing to have to wait and see, but in my opinion, it doesn't seem like it's actually going to be too awful. It feels like they've changed a lot of the problems with it, but you know, this is just my take, just like my impressions. We might have people still abusing it. Overcharge is probably the most needed thing that needed changing in terms of the PTB. This was the big thing that I was like, wow, this is just really overpowered for no reason. This is just like really strong without like any drawbacks or anything to that extent. That this needs some sort of drawback, some sort of cost, or it's not just like free pressure. So PTB overcharge was that it went from 100% after you kick a gen, you go from 100% speed to 400% speed regression over the course of 30 seconds, and it had no cooldown, and it affected any amount of gens that you wanted. And this is in addition to the great skill check if you tap it. So realistically, the idea was like, hey, well, you're not going to actually hit that 400% speed that often because that takes 30 seconds to reach. The difference being that if you were in a situation where you've kicked multiple gens and you're just like not in comms and you're not like communicating, most of the time the gens would hit that 200-300% regression. And if they're stacking that with like pop, call a brine, like that starts getting really crazy and messy really quick. And the fact that it doesn't have a cooldown and you can apply it to as many gens as you want means it's just kind of like very aggressive free pressure. Like this is just pressure for free and it was just like awful. It was awful to face in the PTB. It was literally winning matches for killers in the PTB. It was quite literally like the dead heart of killer. Like you just brought it, got free value, and had very little in the way of counterplay. So they're going to be toning this down. They're going to be start the number at 75 and only increase it to 200. So essentially it's an overtime call a brine. It's an overtime call a brine. So it retains its great skill check. It retains no cooldown. It retains its, you can do a 10A generator, but the effect is weaker. So hopefully it's not as oppressive. I really hope it's not as oppressive because whew, this was so awful to face in the PTB, so awful. Botany knowledge got a buff in the PTB that was fun and nice, but when you brought a good medkit, it got kind of unwieldy. And so they're adding a 20% efficiency penalty while using medkits. But I know this is something you've heard before from other content creators, but why don't you just cap heal speeds? Why don't you just cap heal speeds? Is it not something you're capable of doing? Like if you're worried about healing going too fast across multiple perks against multiple items, why don't we just change the way healing works instead of nitpicking all the perks and the items and the add-ons? Why don't we just cap the healing? It just solves all the problems. I don't know. I don't make games. Distortion, very small change. You now get a audio cue when you get a stack back. I think this is silly because distortion already is barely used, and if you don't know, distortion, the way you get your stacks back is by hiding inside the killer's areas for 30 whole seconds. It's a long time. Distortion's not that crazy. Like 30 whole seconds. Ugh. So Iron Will is essentially staying the same. Essentially this is like an IOU section for Iron Will. Is essentially they're telling us that like Jeff being super duper loud and Jane being super duper loud compared to Ace, who kind of already has built-in Iron Will in this form, where it's the 75%, is not on purpose. And they're going to be changing that in the future. It's an IOU. We're going to be changing that in the future so that you can play whoever you want and not have to play specific people based off of their sound, which is how it should have been. Yep. Inner Focus is getting a small change. Inner Focus is having its range removed on seeing the scratch marks of other survivors, which is great because if you're trying to use it to like go flashlight save, which is and that sort of thing, then like you can just you can just see people really, really far away instead of exclusively having to follow the tear radius. All right, so they're going to visually overhaul some things. These are the new perk charms. They said the red ones weren't what they wanted, and that's because a lot of us kind of looked at the red perk charms and said we don't want that. So they've added a gold border, turned them purple. I'm not going to be using them. This doesn't affect me at all. Hopefully you think it looks better. I don't care for them at all. So yeah, hopefully that looks better for you. Also, the character portraits are different. So now, if you remember, the prestige reward for if you've prestiged before, if you've P3'd your character before it goes through for the mid-chapter update, it has this grimy kind of like pee stain. I know that's gross, but that's what it looks like. It looks like somebody peed on your icon, and it's gross. So they've changed it to this red scratchy background, which I think looks a lot better. Good job. That actually looks like cool. I still wish there was a way that you could like show people. I guess you can show people with these like prestige rewards, like icons that they have. But like, I wish there was a way to show like that I had prestiged before the mid-chapter update, because the badges that every player sees, those like that's just for prestiging period. These you can only get if you've prestiged before the mid-chapter update. I wish there was some way I could show that to other people. I mean, I stream and I make YouTube content, so people will see them. But what if you don't stream? You just don't want to show off your stuff. Like, and there's no way to do that. That's really disappointing. So those are the changes they're going to be putting through for the mid-chapter update and the plans to change things that won't make it into the live update. So, biggest takeaways, I'm glad Overcharge is being nerfed. It kind of needed it. Thana's not on here. That worries me. Prove didn't get added to this. That also worries me. Prove and Thana are going to be out there just ruining games for both sides, I think. So that's fun. I think that's going to make I think that's going to be the new thing, you know, like how we talk about Ruin versus Dead Hard, No End versus Dead Hard, and like, you know, like I feel like our new thing is going to be Thana versus Prove. People are going to run Thana because Prove didn't get adjusted in the update, and then people are going to run Prove because Thana is annoying. That is my forecast for what's going to be happening in the new meta. Is people bring in Prove because they're tired of Thana and vice versa. So that'll be fun. That'll be great. But also, Dead Hard didn't really need the additional nerf. It's kind of goofy, but yeah. Hopefully the mid-chapter goes through and it's a mostly positive change for the game. I would like to hear what you think. Do you think that a lot of these changes that they've suggested are going to be fantastic for the game, or do you think they're going to cause more problems with these specific updated changes? Let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, that's it for today's video, friends. I appreciate you, and I will see you tomorrow. But if I don't, I see you when I see you. Goodbye.